The Weeknd's final album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, has been out for a couple of weeks now, and we've had some time to re-listen to it and get an idea of how Abel Tesfaye's final album wraps up. It's another deep album when it comes to storytelling, and each of the 22 tracks on the main release of the album continue the narrative that we got with the previous two installments in the trilogy, known as After Hours and Dawn FM. Not just that, but this album is the final curtain call in the story for the character of The Weeknd, and we've learnt in recent years that he'll continue as Abel Tesfaye or make music under another name with future albums. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down every track from The Weeknd's final album, Hurry Up Tomorrow. If you listen to each track or the entire album first, you can then listen to this breakdown and hear a full analysis for it. It will also be helpful for going into the release of the Hurry Up Tomorrow film, due to be released in theatres on May the 16th. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my upcoming film breakdowns, including Hurry Up Tomorrow, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into The Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow Explained. So to begin with, Hurry Up Tomorrow as an album can be looked at in different sections. Each builds on the story that continues on from Dawn FM, and each details The Weeknd going through different emotions within this final chapter. The first section of the album takes place between the first song, Wake Me Up, and track 7, Open Hearts, and it's an introduction that suggests Abel is losing the love for continuing as the Weeknd persona. Beginning with Wake Me Up, this track was co-produced by French electronic duo Justice, OPN and Mike Dean. It cleverly incorporates a sample from the opening of Giorgio Moroder's main title from the Scarface soundtrack, and takes creative cues from Michael Jackson's legendary song Thriller. Initially created for the film Hurry Up Tomorrow, helmed by Trey Edward Schultz and featuring The Weeknd alongside Jenna Ortega and Barry Keoghan, this track plays a crucial role in the movie. Apparently, it serves as the film's main song, prominently showcased during a critical concert scene where the Weeknd character experiences a dramatic loss of his voice, echoing a similar event from his real-life performance at the SoFi Stadium where the same thing happened. So he's using that real event as narrative fuel that connects to the main themes of the album. In the context of the album's opening though, the song also reveals Abel's sense of mortality looming over him. This notion of death symbolises the conclusion of his artistic phase as The Weeknd. The shift appears to stem from his desire to abandon the toxic and perilous lifestyle associated with the Weeknd persona, aiming instead to embrace a more grounded and virtuous existence as Abel. Particularly in these initial tracks, he expresses concerns about the repercussions of his career and the legacy he leaves behind as The Weeknd. The themes explored here touch on deep existential reflection and the quest for genuine self-identity. The Weeknd's haunting vocals also delve into the intricate boundaries between reality and fantasy, highlighted by lines such as "Are you real or are you an illusion?" and "'Cause I fear your love's my delusion." This serves as a poignant reflection on the evolution from his earlier works, particularly Dawn FM, where he found himself in a dance-infused limbo, grappling with his own transgressions. Emerging from that experience, he's still on a quest, with the Weeknd persona wrestling to discern what is genuinely authentic in his life. Now, this song also begins to set up the main perspectives of the album itself. There are dual perspectives on the album, with one following Abel, one following The Weeknd, and a few songs focusing on both. Wake Me Up gives us the perspective of Abel trying to find that light at the end of the tunnel and to end the Weeknd persona. But yes, as we go beyond this initial track, it's key to keep in mind that we do get those different perspectives. The opening song ends with Abel continuing to highlight that the end is near and that the sleep he's been in has been paralysing. So he essentially needs to be woken up, and with that, freed of the Weeknd's sins. This brings us to quite the popular song from the new album with Cry For Me. Cry For Me emerges as a standout introspective piece, highlighting The Weeknd's talent for blending emotional narratives with immersive production. Its somber mood and ethereal vocals create a lasting impression right from the album's opening. Thematically, Abel continues the exploration begun in Wake Me Up, revealing his darker tendencies, and does so by reflecting on a past relationship that didn't work out, reminding us of tracks from his past like Die For You and Save Your Tears. He is also expanding on the central theme introduced in the album's opening section, which explores the troubling effects of his legacy as The Weeknd. And while Wake Me Up was the perspective of Abel, Cry For Me is very much the perspective of The Weeknd. In this track, The Weeknd expresses that the demands of touring are gradually taking a toll on him, posing a poignant question to fans about whether they will mourn the loss of his persona when it eventually fades away. It feels as though he's sharing his thoughts on leaving, explaining why he wants to conclude The Weeknd. He says, "And I hope that you still cry for me like I cry to you," highlighting his deep affection and yearning for us to reciprocate that love. When he then sings, "Every time I hit the road, it takes a little piece of me, kills me slowly," he's revealing his anxiety about the toll this journey takes on him, suggesting that he feels he's losing parts of himself rather than gaining anything. In addition to his concerts about the legacy of The Weeknd, he's also troubled by the potential loss of Abel, the true self he has beneath it all. And cue in I Can't Effing Sing, a 12-second skit capturing the moment when The Weeknd lost his voice during a concert. It's a nod to that incident I mentioned earlier, where Abel was kicking off his show at the SoFi Stadium. As he began to sing alone again, his voice faltered, forcing him to halt the entire performance. While he expressed his apologies, some fans responded with boos, which visibly affected him. So this emotional experience weighed heavily on him and significantly influenced his decision to move away from the Weeknd character and base a good chunk of the Hurry Up Tomorrow album on. Interestingly, he did say recently that his doctor at the time had told him that there was nothing wrong with his voice and that it all came from his mind due to all the stress of filming a TV show, touring, and making a long final album. So it clearly was a difficult moment for him, and you can see why he's made it so prominent on the album. We then come to São Paulo, which now makes a lot more sense in the context of the album's story. We stay with the perspective of The Weeknd, and we learn in this Brazilian funk hit that he's stressed out after losing his voice. The anxiety of potentially never singing again weighs heavily on him, prompting him to seek solace in wild, uninhibited encounters with a woman as a way to cope and regain his self-assurance. This track serves as a form of emotional release, and throughout the initial segment of the album, which I would characterize as a collection of Frankenstein-esque visions, that is the big thematical reoccurrence. He is deeply concerned about the ramifications for his career, and the incident of losing his voice during a concert sends him into a spiral of fear, leading him to think that his career is over. Him turning back to the dark aspects of the Weeknd persona on São Paulo is in a way him reminding us that he's struggling to get rid of that, and it is haunting him. The fifth track, Until We're Skin and Bones, picks up from São Paulo and is a fast-paced, synth-filled transitional track that builds in intensity. It's almost like through the instrumental here that OPN, Mike Dean and Nathan Salon is communicating how The Weeknd cannot take his cycle any longer. There's a sense of desperation to the music, and just like the title suggests, he believes that The Weeknd is ending and there's no saving him. We move on to the song which I think is one of the most impactful tracks on the new album, with Baptized in Fear. This is the first track since Wake Me Up where we actually come back to the perspective of Abel Tesfaye. In the song, The Weeknd is in his bathtub delving into intense emotions of guilt and regret. This relates to a visual from the Hurry Up Tomorrow movie trailer, so it seems as though this will be heavily linked into that storyline as well. During the song, he portrays a sense of being stuck in a state of both physical and emotional immobility, representing the heavy burden of his past errors. As he confronts his inner turmoil, the track examines how fear and self-reflection can take over, illustrating the battle to break free from the shadow that lingers. And this shadow serves as a representation of the Weeknd himself. Abel finds himself submerged in a bathtub, gasping for air and feeling helpless. As he faces the impending end, a wave of remorse washes over him, reflecting on his past misdeeds. He is then urged to confront his sins, and he clings to the hope that by acknowledging them, he might find redemption and a place in heaven. The weight of guilt and pain from his history is unbearable, and he is determined not to let this be the way his life concludes. Anxiety takes a hold of him as he yearns for a peaceful death, one that would allow his soul to find peace. And in the midst of his struggle, he perceives a shadowy figure outside the bathtub, its presence unsettling yet familiar, watching him as he sinks deeper into despair. Now, in the context of the album's narrative and its various viewpoints, it becomes evident that this character is none other than the Weeknd himself, his alter ego, observing him as he struggles and sinks deeper. He watches Abel succumb to his despair, yet he has no desire to let him perish. Instead, he allows Abel to experience this anguish as a form of retribution for wishing to rid himself of that character. The lyrics suggest that the Weeknd shadow draws nearer to him, mocking Abel as he flounders, reveling in his torment. And I think the voices that Abel sings about hearing could also be voices of the Weeknd's fans, those who are reluctant to let go of him and hope he maintains that persona. Abel eventually finds himself engulfed in a sea of guilt and pain, feeling as though he is sinking. And while many hope for a swift and painless end to life, for Abel, the experience is prolonged and filled with shadows of his past and the identity he yearns to escape from. A baptism typically symbolises a fresh start, a moment of purification from sins as one embarks on a new path. However, for Abel, the experience is starkly different. He isn't finding redemption from his sins, as instead, he's sinking deeper into them. As he approaches the brink of death, he barely manages to hold on, and throughout the song, he never truly finds peace, unable to break free from his struggles. He can also still hear his fans pleading for him to persevere, to keep fighting, and to continue being the Weeknd. So it's a blend of his personal reflections, intertwined with the pressure from those urging him to continue creating music as the Weeknd, unaware of the pain that it is causing him. He has essentially reached his breaking point, and thematically, it implies that Abel needs to step into the light and address his issues. He doesn't know how to do that yet, and he will struggle, as summed up by the next few songs, but a change is essential for him to start moving forward. We then get probably the best transition in the Weeknd's discovery, and we come to Open Hearts, the song that concludes the first section of the album's story. The music video for this track serves as an ideal representation of its role in the Hurry Up Tomorrow narrative. Open Hearts continues the storyline from a video for a shelved song from the album, Dancing in the Flames, featuring the Weeknd in an ambulance. In a symbolic sense, the shadowy figures within the ambulance in the music video may symbolise his harmful thoughts, ones that prevent him from changing. The appearance of these silhouettes evokes memories of the previous song Baptized in Fear, particularly with the line about the voices in his head urging him to keep going. At a crucial moment in the video, a young Abel halts the ambulance, marking a turning point in his journey. Until this moment, he has been a passive passenger, unaware of what truly serves him, merely going through the motions. But this pivotal moment forces him to confront a choice about the path he wishes to take and the fate of the Weeknd. The first choice presents a door that opens to a mirrored realm, seemingly devoid of life, while the second option offers an exit from the ambulance. And although the destination of the second option remains a mystery, he instinctively favours it over the first one. As he steps out of the ambulance, he traverses a corridor that echoes the one from Take My Breath, where he previously entered Purgatory in DUNE FM, but this time he is walking out of that corridor. Once walking into an arena, he sees Abel on stage, and that figure shares the same luminous gaze as the shadowy figures seen in the ambulance. But as the performance progresses, his true self emerges. This suggests that in Open Hearts, Abel has come to terms with the darker aspects of the Weeknd and is no longer evading them. His inability to advance as Abel stems from the fact that the Weeknd serves as a facade, a persona that enabled Abel to escape the scars of his past, particularly after he left home at a young age. Before he can embark on a new journey, he needs to reconnect with his inner child and mend the pieces of himself that he left behind. It's essential for him to embrace his emotions once more and not push Abel aside. Abel seems to be encouraging the listener to remain open-hearted, welcoming the opportunity to evolve into this new chapter and rediscover the joy of love with his renewed beginning. So in regards to this first section on the album, I think up until Baptized in Fear, it's like a sort of vision. He was trapped within a state of sleep paralysis while in the bathtub, likely lingering in the last moments of purgatory as depicted in the DUNE FM narrative. This part illustrates the potential future of his life as the Weeknd if he chooses to persist on this path. Wake Me Up symbolises his struggle to break free from that vision where he is haunted by demons. In Cry For Me, he reflects on what his existence as the Weeknd could mean if he carries on, realising that no one mourned for him, prompting him to seek change. On São Paulo, he then reflects on his life, recognising how drugs and fleeting sexual encounters are leading to his downfall, gaining clarity on the factors contributing to his current predicament. In Baptized in Fear, he emerges from a state of fear and paralysis, vividly recounting his experiences and realizations. He grapples with anxiety about his future, fearing that his authentic self Abel might perish while he embodies the persona of The Weeknd. Given a fresh opportunity to live, he resolves to transform, prepared to reveal his true self to the world as expressed in Open Hearts. So at this current point in the story, he's made the first step to leaving the Weeknd persona behind. This brings us to Opening Night, which I think is the start of the album's second section, and we come back to the perspective of The Weeknd. Opening Night acts as a prelude to the subsequent track, Reflections Laughing. The initial segment of the song incorporates an ethereal, distorted rendition of a phone error message, establishing a phone call theme that connects the two songs. The lyrics present a one-sided dialogue, revealing The Weeknd's anxious thoughts as he prepares for a significant opening night, the first since he lost his voice and was unable to perform. This moment is filled with tension, hinting at his nerves about returning to the stage, and as a result, he appears to resort to drugs again just before stepping into the spotlight in the following track. The song concludes with a ringing tone, and this smoothly leads us into Reflections Laughing. On that song, we again continue with the perspective of The Weeknd. Amidst the pressure to perform again, this track showcases The Weeknd grappling with the weight of expectation. At the midpoint, we encounter a phone call skit featuring Cherry22, who tells him he didn't look his best during his performance and urges him to resist the industry's pressures. Her concern for his mental state lingers briefly before fading into the background as he continues to sip from his glass, a poignant representation of the inner turmoil and emotional distance that permeate the song. Later in the track, Travis Scott steps in with his verse, creating a moment of introspection for both artists as they reflect on the toll that fame and touring take on their lives. So in Reflections Laughing, The Weeknd delves into the complexities of fame, self-examination, and his own vulnerabilities. The track takes listeners on a profound journey through the emotional terrain of celebrity life, presenting a haunting yet contemplative perspective on the triumphs and tribulations that accompany success. With his distinctive and emotive voice, The Weeknd conveys a deep sense of sadness and uncertainty, while his thoughtful lyrics reveal the more sinister aspects of fame, where moments of joy frequently collide with feelings of loneliness. He's essentially trying to readjust as a performer, and although he made the first steps to heal following the end of Open Hearts, it appears as though he is still struggling to go the extra mile. Continuing with the running theme of touring, the next track, Enjoy the Show, features The Weeknd once more grappling with substance use. This song serves as another message to his fans and adds to the extensive list of collaborations with Future. With its light R&B vibe, the anthem delves into the struggles of drug addiction, highlighting the allure of substance use and the physical toll it takes, topics that resonate deeply in Future's music as well. The Weeknd compares his struggles with substance abuse to a complicated relationship, recognizing the toll it takes on his health and prompting him to contemplate his own downfall. But despite this, he encourages the audience to enjoy the show while they can. He expresses his gratitude to his fans for their support, but also reveals his desire to step away from the Weeknd persona due to the immense pressure and mental struggles that it causes him. Additionally, the title of the song can be seen as Abel relishing the moment while letting go of concerns about the future, acknowledging that death is a certainty we all must face. And on the point about him communicating to his fans, the following track, Given Up On Me, takes a deeper look at Abel's struggle with honesty towards his listeners. This two-part song draws a parallel between his destructive relationship with substances and a romantic entanglement, highlighting how Abel feels trapped, unable to break free despite knowing it would be the best choice. So after a short break, this song brings us back to the perspective of Abel. On the search for tomorrow, Abel is finding it hard to let go of The Weeknd as he seems to be drawn to the chaos and toxicity that comes along with it. It appears he isn't quite prepared to embrace a change just yet. We've seen this throughout his career as he's been on this massive cycle of grief, toxicity, potentially healing, and then back around that cycle again. But come the second part of this song, there's a feeling that beneath it all, he genuinely thinks he can finally break free of this cycle with aspirations of striving for a brighter future. It sets up the next section with a bit more hope, and you feel like he is making more progress. So the final track of the album's second story segment, Given Up On Me, delves deep into The Weeknd's experience of grief after losing his voice during a concert. This part of the album captures his growing aversion to live performances and the pressures of fame, leading him to revert to unhealthy habits as a way to cope with the overwhelming stress. He acknowledges this, and like I said, by the end of the song, he's looking to make a change quite quickly. So in regards to the timeline of the story thus far, he lost his voice, and the first 7 tracks of the album deal with the aftermath of that in Visions, still coming out of the purgatory state from DUNE FM. And then following Open Hearts up until track 11 with Given Up On Me, he's dealing with all the grief following the moment where he did lose his voice. So he comes out of this with the intention of ending the Weeknd, but at the same time, he's struggling to do that, once again struggling with the pressures of fame. This brings us onto the third section of the album, where we begin to get a sense of realization from the perspective of the Weeknd. As we progress through the next few tracks, we discover a glimpse of hope for him as he begins to feel enthusiastic about concluding his career on a positive note. However, he also comes to terms with the impact his sinful lifestyle has had on him, leaving him anxious about his ability to move forward. Once again, his troubled past looms over him, presenting a challenge he has faced before. He contemplates his riches, personal struggles, and contentious rivalries. Similar to Given Up On Me, he expresses a desire to step back from the spotlight, lamenting how the media paints him in a negative light and revealing his growing frustration with it all. But the sense of positivity for the future here highlights that we may be turning a corner. Cue in Timeless featuring Playboi Carti, which seems to be a final full-out nod to the persona of the Weeknd as we knew him before. Both artists on the song delve into the concepts of self-identity, fame, and the fleeting essence of relationships in the dazzling yet frequently superficial realm of celebrity culture. They do this while perfectly syncing with the vibrant, trap-infused beats crafted by Pharrell Williams and Mike Dean. When it comes to the continuing story of the album, this seems like a final ode to the toxic nature of the Weeknd persona that some of the fanbase want him to continue. He takes solace in the fact that despite the hate and pressure surrounding him after he gets rid of the Weeknd character, that persona remains alive in our memories and is immortalized by the legendary impact he has made. So essentially, what's done is done, and Timeless serves as a final tribute to that character, free from excessive sorrow. And this brings me on to probably 2 of my favourite tracks on the Hurry Up Tomorrow album, with Niagara Falls and Take Me Back to LA. Niagara Falls is from the perspective of the Weeknd, whereas Take Me Back to LA is from the perspective of Abel. On the tracks, we see the Weeknd reminiscing back to a simpler time, and then Abel learning from his mistakes. In particular, Niagara Falls carries on the Weeknd's legacy of deep, introspective R&B, incorporating a sample from John B's Someone to Love featuring Babyface. Set against the romantic backdrop of Niagara Falls, the track delves into the intricacies of a former relationship. It weaves together themes of love, regret, and self-discovery. With descriptive imagery, the Weeknd navigates his emotional landscape, bridging the gap between who he was and who he has become. The song's 2 contrasting sections reflect this emotional journey, transitioning from nostalgia to a recognition of personal growth and transformation. And then another perfect transition follows this as we are led into the perspective of Abel on Take Me Back to LA, which is my favourite song from the album. Delving into themes of growth and responsibility, Take Me Back to LA captures the evolution from the Weeknd to Abel Tesfaye as he embraces his authentic self. In the opening verse, Tesfaye reflects singing Take Me Back to LA where the sun would kiss on my face, evoking memories from his debut album of this new trilogy, After Hours. He shifts his perspective on LA, contrasting his earlier sentiments in Escape from LA, where he once blamed the city for his struggles. Now he recognises that the true source of his past issues lie within himself. He continues singing, Take me back to a time when my blood never tasted like wine, illustrating his spiritual journey and quest for redemption throughout Hurry Up Tomorrow. In the chorus, he then expresses, It's better when I'm by myself, emphasising his newfound comfort in the discomfort of solitude and isolation, a state he once dreaded. He then reflects on his hometown of Scarborough with the lines, Take me back to a place when the snow would fall on my face and I miss my city lights. This reveals a younger version of Abel filled with nostalgia, longing to return to a place he failed to value when he was there, realising its significance only after he had left, making it feel like a lost home. In the pre-chorus, he then continues with the lines, The days I would tell myself it's okay for me to scream. Now, this moment showcases his introspection regarding the persona he portrayed in After Hours, highlighting how deeply his self-hatred had affected him. He found himself trapped in a relentless loop of self-imposed emotional suffering. The reflection uncovers the sorrow he feels, and this past version of himself became distant with the passage of time. And finally, in the second version of the chorus, he now sings, "I hate it when I'm by myself." This starkly contrasts his earlier lines in the previous chorus as he reveals his authentic self, now longing for connection and affection once more. So to round out this section of the album, Abel is now starting to heal and mature, finally leaving the Weeknd behind. This brings us to the fourth and penultimate section of Hurry Up Tomorrow, and it's here where Abel begins to take an even bigger step. The songs Big Sleep, Give Me Mercy, and Drive all come from the perspective of Abel, showing that he decides to fully commit to ending this chapter of his life. And while he's scared to do so, there's a sense of excitement for his future. The song Big Sleep merges Abel's profound emotional insight with audacious experimentation. The track's glitchy production and vocals create a hauntingly beautiful ambience. It resonates as a courageous and introspective goodbye, not only to the album, but potentially to the Weeknd's career as he approaches the conclusion of his artistic path. Abel contemplates his life decisions and achievements as the Weeknd, which he surprisingly views as minimal. He grapples with the feeling that he has squandered his borrowed life, lost in a sea of toxicity and indulgence. This track offers a heartfelt examination of life, loss, and the desire for forgiveness. The song navigates the fleeting nature of existence, using the term Big Sleep as a metaphor for death, which highlights not only the certainty of our final moments, but also the deep emotional burden of time not fully lived. In the opening verse, Abel seems to be speaking to a significant other, contemplating a relationship that is both intricate and potentially troubled. The phrase, "I love it when you're angry," hints at a dynamic filled with emotional ups and downs, possibly ignited by disagreements. Yet there's an underlying feeling of remorse as he observes the other person, acknowledging his part in creating distance between them. The chorus then takes a deep dive into a heartfelt contemplation of mortality, using the phrase borrowed life to convey the idea that our existence is fleeting, a gift we only hold for a short time. He confesses to squandering this precious time, indicating that he hasn't truly embraced or made the most of the moments he was given. And then the conclusion of the song shifts to a more spiritual and redemptive vibe, with Abel expressing the idea of his soul resurrecting. It hints at a revival or awakening, potentially representing a spiritual rebirth through death. It acts as a poignant reminder of the themes surrounding death and resurrection, leaving listeners with a sense of hope that, even amidst the shadows of a big sleep, there could be light awaiting beyond it. We then come to the track Give Me Mercy, which again continues the perspective of Abel. This song is a heartfelt and poignant cry for redemption and divine mercy, delving into both guilt and temptation. It acts as a confession of past wrongdoings, with Abel facing his self-destructive tendencies and pleading for forgiveness. Through vivid imagery of bleeding, shadows, and past errors, he recognizes the heavy burden his choices have imposed on his soul, all while longing for an opportunity to transform and become his true self again, hidden beneath the weight of the Weeknd's temptation and suffering. He repeats in the song, hoping that it's all worth all the bleeding when I'm defeated. The term bleeding represents the deep emotional pain Abel has faced throughout his career, illustrating the impact his decisions have had. Yet with the phrase "when I'm defeated," there's an air of acceptance, as he recognises that even after his darkest moments, there's a glimmer of hope for redemption. Then, in the closing moments of the song, a palpable sense of vulnerability and desperation envelops Abel as he fervently begs for mercy. The repeated plea emphasises the intensity of his longing for grace, suggesting that he clings onto the hope of receiving compassion. As the outro gradually fades, it leaves us with an impression of unresolved yearning, mirroring Abel's continuous battle to come to terms with his past sins. We continue with Abel on the next track, Drive, and this one gives us quite the reflective vibe, captivating us with its sense of nostalgia. The song begins with Abel's beautifully haunting vocals, complemented by a slow rhythm that establishes the mood for the entire piece. Abel's recurring wish to just want to drive captures his profound longing to break free from the constraints of the weekend and embark on a new journey. This song serves as another metaphor for the emotional release that he craves as he readies to embrace his authentic self as Abel. The driving imagery evokes feelings of independence and a forward momentum, highlighting that Abel is not merely driving in a physical sense, but is symbolically steering away from his past. The lyrics, combined with the song's cathartic vibe, evoke a blend of closure, signalling that the end is near. This sets up the final section of songs on the album, and I think starting with The Abyss, we get The Weeknd saying his final goodbyes to his moniker as he's falling into the void on his way to death. This song and the next track, Red Terror, incorporate the perspectives of both Abel and The Weeknd at the same time, which we haven't heard up until this point. The Abyss offers a deep dive into the inner turmoil that accompanies the conclusion of a significant chapter in life, both on a personal and professional level. Through Abel's journey away from his well-known public image, the song explores themes of self-identity, legacy, and the unavoidable repercussions of fame. As Abel grapples with the fading of his persona, he confronts the anxiety of potentially losing everything, the emotional burden of maintaining a facade, and the yearning for self-expression. Thus, The Abyss poignantly illustrates the conflict between clinging to a past that shaped him and facing the unpredictability of what lies ahead. He says, "Just promise me that it won't be slow, and I will feel the impact of the ground." This line reveals his desire for a swift shift from the persona of The Weeknd back to his true self without facing too many challenges. There's an underlying fear of potentially losing everything, including his standing in the music industry. And then at the start of the outro, Lana Del Rey and Abel both communicate a palpable sense of conclusion. Abel is in the search of tranquility as he prepares to leave his persona behind, and his urge to flee may symbolize a longing to break free from his past and the burdens of his public identity. This moment marks a significant step in his journey of growth as both an artist and an individual. Right at the end, we receive a final warning where Abel and Lana anticipate backlash for their choices, yet ultimately they decide to move on. This moment serves as a definitive rejection of the same emotional turmoil that The Weeknd's experienced time and time again, indicating that he is stepping back from it all in favour of tranquility. It feels like he is reclaiming authority over his own story and a sense of self as he distances himself from The Weeknd for good. We then transition to the track Red Terror, a profoundly moving exploration of a parental relationship. In particular, the song examines the subtleties of parental love, contemplating the care, protection, and emotional bond shared with a child. It presents two distinct viewpoints, one from Abel and the other from his mother. For the majority of it, it's written from the perspective of Abel's mother, who recounts her own journey of fleeting darkness and leaving her past behind when she relocated from Ethiopia to Toronto for a new beginning. This experience both relates and contrasts to Abel's decision to run away from home as his life got darker once he did so. And his mum uses her story to offer solace to him as he chooses to shed the Weeknd persona and embrace a brighter future as Abel. It explores the themes of fleeing from trauma and dealing with separation, and it leads to an outro speech by Abel who suggests that love can rise above the pain of loss. At the beginning of the song, Abel's mum says, "You're not heavy, I rocked you to sleep, I hold you for hours long. Never heavy, I won't let you weep, hush my child, you're mine, all my life I try." This moves into the outro with Abel saying, "Death is nothing at all, it does not count, I only slipped away into the next room, nothing has happened, everything remains exactly how it was, I am I and you are you, and the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged, what we were to each other, that we are still." So the outro is directly referencing Henry Scott Holland's poem Death is Nothing at All, and this poem conveys a powerful message about death, indicating that the bond between Abel and his mum surpasses any physical tragedy. It serves as a comforting reminder that their love remain unyielding, even in the face of death or change. The track concludes with Abel saying, "Call me by the old familiar name," which strongly indicates a longing to reconnect with a more genuine version of himself. Here, Abel refers to The Weeknd's true identity, symbolising a journey back to his origins and signalling the conclusion of The Weeknd. This line is also used in the trailer for the upcoming film, so I think we can expect the themes of this song to be very present in that narrative too. So overall, the song intricately weaves together themes of parenthood with deep reflections on life and mortality, leading to a conclusion that emphasizes the lasting power of love and human bond. Abel's journey into vulnerability and personal growth shines through, signifying a pivotal moment in his artistic development as he moves beyond the persona of The Weeknd to embrace a more genuine version of himself. Following this, the penultimate song, Without a Warning, which is my second favourite song on the album behind Take Me Back to LA, gives us the perspective of both The Weeknd and Abel combined, with him giving a final thanks to his fans for sticking by him. The Weeknd's introspective lyrics explore the delicate nature of his body and voice, revealing the immense pressure tied to life in the spotlight. The song navigates his inner struggle between yearning for love from his audience and the self-destructive behaviours that accompany that pursuit. And in the end, it encapsulates the conflict between transient moments of joy and the looming anxiety of an unpredictable future as The Weeknd confronts the burden of his legacy. He says, "Take me to a time when I was young and my heart could take the drugs and heartache without loss." In this way, The Weeknd reminisces about a past where he could withstand emotional and physical turmoil without suffering long-term consequences. The crowd will scream my name, even when the world wants me to fail, then reflects on how his fans continue to stand by him, offering unwavering support even in the face of his personal challenges. Continuing, he says, "Leave my guts all on the stage," to indicate his willingness to expose his innermost self and pour every ounce of effort into the performances for the fans. And finally, on the outro, he sings, "I don't suppose tomorrow's coming, especially when I always chase the crown, especially when they put me in the ground." So essentially, his anxiety about an unpredictable future resonates here, highlighting that despite his immense success as an artist, he is still grappling with the deeper and personal questions of life and legacy. And this brings us on to the finale with the title track Hurry Up Tomorrow. From Abel's viewpoint, this piece acts as a heartfelt and moving goodbye to the identity he has shaped over his career. In just 5 minutes, the song transforms into a candid revelation, with Abel facing the conclusion of a significant phase in his life. Right from the start of the song, there's an air of closure and resignation as he reflects on his past missteps as The Weeknd, embracing the reality of the ending that has finally arrived. Abel navigates the complexities of his past in the song, reflecting on his emotional battles and the tumultuous journey he's taken as The Weeknd. The lyrics explore his yearning for transformation, a release from suffering, and the quest for tranquility in both this life and the afterlife. Through imagery of a spiritual awakening and a sincere apology, he signals the conclusion of a chapter filled with self-sabotage, while also conveying a sense of optimism for a fresh start. It's a kind of rebirth that liberates him from the shadows of his past. He says, "And I've been trying to fill that void that my father left so no one else abandons me, I'm sorry." This line highlights the profound emotional wounds caused by his father's absence and illustrates Abel's quest for validation and wholeness through his tumultuous relationships. In this moment, he expresses remorse for those he has harmed in his pursuit of true human connection. It kind of reminded me of A Tale from Quincy on DUNE FM, where Quincy Jones, rest in peace, talks about how the things in his past shaped the issues that formed later on. Abel then continues saying, "But now I'm drowning in the same tub where I learned how to swim, with my mother trying to save every ounce of my innocence." This passage echoes themes from Baptized in Fear, depicting Abel's metaphorical drowning in the bathtub. In Red Terror, his mother strived to protect his innocence, yet Abel grapples here with a sense of failure towards her and himself. This serves as a commentary on the conflict between his past and present self, highlighting the unavoidable loss of innocence that has marked his journey as The Weeknd. Abel then apologizes, saying, "I failed her like I failed myself, I'm sorry mama," to highlight his inability to ignore the hurt he has inflicted. And he finishes the song with, "I want the pain no more, no more, no more," and an outro that brings his entire career full circle, with a perfect musical transition into high for this from his debut mixtape House of Balloons. The repetition of Abel saying no more symbolizes his departure from the pain and challenges that have characterized his life as The Weeknd. And by bringing the album full circle back to high for this, the track provides a therapeutic resolution for both Abel and his fans, marking not only a satisfying conclusion, but also a new beginning. If I were to describe the final section of this song and the album with one word, it would be acceptance, as The Weeknd acknowledges his past, seeks solace in the idea of heaven, and yearns for a promising tomorrow. So what comes next is not clarified to us, but what we would suspect is that it would be under his real name, Abel, and that he would look for a more hopeful way into that. And my guess is that musically, it would be inspired by the heavy cinematic and operatic music that we got in the final few songs of Hurry Up Tomorrow. But that was my video explaining the full story of The Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow album. It'll be interesting to see how the upcoming movie builds on the narrative and themes of The Weeknd's new album, and Abel did say that the film does stand on its own, even if it shares much thematical and audio-visual notes. I've already covered the trailer for the film on my channel, so if you want to know more about it, check out my breakdown that I did a couple of weeks back. But I do hope that this breakdown helps some of you guys understand the album and smaller details a bit better, and overall, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it, so don't forget to let me know down below in the comments section. For much more videos and news on movies like Hurry Up Tomorrow, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.